What's up? How are we doing? Yep, you've got another fragrance reviewer turned up on your feed, or you've been recommended by someone, or you've just stumbled across it. Whatever. So, why do you need another one? There's already so many out there. Well, I don't know. Do you need another one? No, but I'm obsessed with fragrances. It's become, yeah, an obsession, big part of my life. I use them for the obvious reasons, but for also for relaxation purposes. I get a lot of enjoyment out of them. I think something that does something to your senses like that, if you get an enjoyment out of it, it's difficult to break free from it, and it just becomes a snowball effect, and you just get consumed by it, and then you end up with close to 200 bottles and um, no real good reason as to why you are in the situation you're in. Anyway, that's besides the point. My name's Al, and welcome to the Frag Lad. This is episode number one, my maiden voyage into this whole thing. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. We'll just have to wait and see. But my motivation behind doing this channel is as follows. Um, in my early stages of the hobby, I got sucked into the YouTube rabbit hole, and I was very easily influenced by these people that just kept firing out these recommendations time and time and time again. And I quickly, well, maybe not quickly enough actually, I began to learn that there weren't genuine recommendations, and it was very easy for these people. I'm not going to name any names, but it was very easy for these people to make these recommendations because they hadn't used their own money to buy these bottles of fragrance. They were given to them, and they were being continued to receive these bottles of fragrance because they kept giving them good reviews, and who knows whatever else they were given. I want to basically get it across that, you know, um, you shouldn't buy into the hype, and it doesn't matter how many of these people are telling you how good something is. You really need to sample first. It depends how you want to approach this thing, and this is something that's going to be a common theme as we go along. I can only give you my recommendations. I'm not a professional by any stretch of the imagination. And there'll be people that are watching videos of mine that are actually deeper into the journey and have more experience than myself. Um, but I'd like to think that I have a good understanding about where people are in terms of the situation, their budget, what they want to achieve, how far into how far interested they are into the hobby. I like to think that I have a good understanding of what to recommend for individual situations, people, needs, etc. Today, my first episode, there was a bit of, well, more than a bit actually, quite a lot of deliberation on what I should make my first episode about. Now, I've done my little introduction about myself and what I want to achieve with the channel. I want to be, the everyday lad, the frag lad that can be on your wavelength. I'm not trying to be anything special. So yeah. Anyway, like I say, we've got the introduction out of the way. So I just thought it's something easy, something. Now it ain't going to be what people early on in the game are going to be able to relate to. Maybe I haven't chosen something that everyone would want to watch. But whether you're early on in the game or deep into the game, you'll have heard about this house. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Parfums de Marly. Everyone, if you do know about the brand, everyone knows them for the rich, decadent, and deep winter fragrances, the cold weather fragrances, the things that speak to you about cold weather. And people like to throw a bit of shade on the fresher offerings, especially the newest release. We have it here, Perseus. You know the bottle. They're all the same, just different colours. Yeah, Perseus. Now, I tried this and I immediately liked it. And I know what people say about, oh, they're just going after the Ted Hermes DNA. And it's easy to say that, isn't it? It's very easy to make that correlation because of the really sharp, almost like spiky citrus with the grapefruit and the mandarin orange. I think it's mandarin orange. Yeah, I think it's mandarin orange, but grapefruit certainly. And it's like going after eau givré, the freshest offering from Ted Hermes. Okay, yeah, okay, I can see that, and there's vetiver in there too. So, but it isn't. It doesn't smell like, to me anyway. It doesn't smell like any of the offerings from Hermes. Um, it hasn't got the dirty orange of the original and the pure parfum, and it doesn't have quite the same icy freshness as eau givré. So if they were using the House of Hermes and the Ted Hermes line in particular, if they were using that as inspiration, then it's just been inspiration. They've just thought, let's do something like that. And it got really hated on at first when it was first released. And, I think Parfums de Marly and other niche houses, it's unavoidable, I think. And especially if you go on to things like Fragrantica, like things get bombed before they even get tried on there. And you'll see, like, I would never advise looking on Fragrantica for an honest reflection of our fragrances until it's been out for a few months, because you get all sorts of clowns on there going on and absolutely bombing it before they've even smelled it for whatever reason. They're just, I don't know, they probably haven't got enough productive things to be doing in the day. But yeah, getting back to Perseus, I really like it, and I think you do need to wear it a few times to be able to appreciate that it's more. There's more to it than just that sharp citrus opening. And yeah, I mean the vetiver even in there, as I just mentioned, it's different. It's a clean vetiver and dry. There's no real earthiness with it. And there's ambergris in the base. I don't really get. I don't get from me personally. I don't get ambergris in the traditional sense. Um, there's it doesn't really give me any sort of marine salty vibes or anything like that, and no earthiness, because it can come across that way. Um, there's also black currant mentioned in the notes. I don't really get much of that either. But what I do get from this, and what I appreciate about it most, is, yeah, I really like the opening. It's a bit much for some people because of how sharp it is, but like when it dries down, the the clean woods here are just beautiful to me. They really are. And I want to stress something else about fresher fragrances, that a lot of people that complain about longevity, and that's the way that they're built, the structure of a fresh fragrance. You're always going to have inferior longevity to a winter fragrance. It's always going to be the case. And people say, oh, a cold weather fragrance will punch through the cold. And that's one way to describe it. But I like to think of it a different way. A cold weather fragrance will be able to perform despite the lack of heat. That's how I like to look at it, because of the build of it. It's heavy, the aroma chemicals and the natural ingredients chosen to develop such a scent will still push off your skin despite it being cold. despite the lack of heat. Now, if you're going to spray a fresh fragrance and just sit around the house, you will experience poor performance for two main reasons. You haven't got the outside heat or your body heat pushing it off you. So you're not going to get those noticeable wafts of sillage and stuff. And you won't get them anyway, especially if you're sitting down and doing nothing. And also, a lot of these fragrances have ambroxan in, and that is really quite renowned for causing nose bindless or olfactory fatigue. And then I've heard people complain about things like Cedrat Boisé, intense Cedrat Boisé. It's nuclear. They've covered themselves in it, and they've just become nose blind to it. You're far better off, getting away from your nose and your application points. And then, yeah, you might still become a little bit anosmic to it, but you will get wafts of it, and it's such an enjoyable way to wear fragrances, isn't it? Where you're not engulfed by the scent, you just get wafts. Yeah. Yeah, I was filming.
2,000 years later.
Sorry about that. There's a reminder that this whole thing is just part of my normal life. This isn't even immediately after that golden-haired siren called up the stairs. I told her I was filming as well, she's just such a scatterbrain. Yeah, this is a week later. That was my final opportunity to do a bit of filming, and it was my first episode, so I was hoping to get it all done. But yeah, there we go. That's life, isn't it? Right, so I'm not sure if I managed to summarise what I was saying about Perseus. Obviously, I touched on the controversy surrounding its release, people, comparing it to Terre d'Hermes, and with the next entry I'm about to discuss, there's a bit more gravity to the comparisons of a designer release. But with Perseus, I really do think that I do think it's worth being in the lineup. It's now almost everything about Parfums de Marly is what they call entry level niche. There are some that are less mass appealing, and I think the earlier releases, especially the darker winter fragrances, that they are a little bit more challenging. But as far as the fresher offerings are concerned, it's really, in my opinion, it's difficult to dislike anything. That rindy citrus, it's so well done. I don't think there's anything synthetic about that at all. There probably is. In fact, there more than likely is, But it's the blend, the composition. It's just perfectly balanced. If you want something for the high heat that's citrusy, woody, musky, and all balanced in such a way. I mean, I think even the geranium, as much as you can't smell it, I can't anyway, not to my nose, even the geranium is playing a role here of giving some brightness to probably the woods and the vetiver. I think, because nothing about this is dirty or earthy. I don't think so anyway. Obviously, it's open to interpretation, but yeah, absolutely love this stuff. Now, as I just said, there are some clear comparisons between this one and two designer releases, and I can't argue with it, and neither does anybody else. This is Percival, and it clearly went straight after the DNA of Abercrombie and Fitch Fierce and Montblanc Legend. Now, there's no argument here. Nobody can debate the fact. You smell that and then smell this, and it is. It exactly is, but it's done better. Now, I did have Montblanc Legend. I've smelled Fierce, and I think I preferred Legend, to be honest, and I don't know if that was because I was a bit of a Mont Blanc fan at the time. With a logical brain, everything aside, was it worth me getting it if I already had Mont Blanc Legend? Probably not. If I'm honest, probably not. Um, but it is done better. It certainly is done better. Try and find somebody who will argue with that fact. You can't. You can't argue with that fact. You do get, as I said, the citrus and the musks and the woods. It's shower fresh. The lavender's apparent, bergamot, and everything else. The woods you experience obviously more in the dry down, as you do with fragrances. Like the things that fizzle out first are the things that you smell first, and they're often the lighter, brighter notes, and the deeper, richer things aren't apparent till later on, but they stay around for longer. It is an ambroxan bomb, but so is the DNA. It's the same with Fierce, it's the same with Legend, and you know what? This is one of those things, like a lot of things, when you've got this much stuff, you forget how nice it is, I almost feel like Bukaki-ing myself in it. Sorry. Yeah, it's the ambroxan. You'll stop smelling it before others do, and that's just the nature of ambroxan. I've yet to find something that's heavy in ambroxan that you don't become nose blind to. Like I said, you try and keep it away from underneath your nose when you apply it. Like, even if you're going to put it on your clothes, like put it on the back of your arms, on your shoulders or something. Anything there, it's going to rise up. Your senses will become acclimatized to it and just shut off detecting it. So I try and keep my application points away from my nose, but even still, ambroxan, it does cause anosmia. But the clean, shower fresh vibe of this fragrance, it has a place in the lineup. It really does. And as much as it's a designer-esque composition, it is done much better than the Mont Blanc or the Abercrombie and Fitch. There's now a Mont Blanc Legend Blue out, which I haven't smelt yet, but apparently it's closer to this than original Legend. Now, what does that tell you? Parfums de Marly release Percival a while ago now, mind. And everyone says, it's like Legend / Fierce, but done better. And then now, just this year, in 2024, Mont Blanc released Legend Blue, and for those that have had their nose on it, they've said that, it's Legend, but it's closer to Percival than Legend was. So, what does that tell you? Apparently there's some mint in there, though. You don't get any mint in this. I mean, there's geranium in the top, which can come across minty. It can give the impression of like a liveliness, a herbal liveliness, vibrancy. It can fool you into thinking it's a bit minty, but it's not. But yeah, rambling on as much as I have been. This is the second fresh offering, my third favourite, Percival. Those of you that know which four I'm talking about probably aren't expecting me to reach for this one now. You were thinking this was going to be number one, weren't you? I'm sorry, it's not. As nice as it is, because it is nice, obviously it is. I think it's nicer than the other two we've already talked about. And it is really, really nice. With this, I was just talking about mint there. This mint, there's no hiding from this mint. Yeah, it's it's mint and citrus that you get immediately. And I find, I can't really put it on my skin now, can I? But let's put it on a test strip. The amount of test strips I've sprayed in my life, well, in the years, I always miss it. So good though. Now, my only gripe with this, and it isn't just the composition or me becoming anosmic to it. Now, I haven't had it very long, so maybe it'll get better with time, I don't know. But it's longevity. As nice as it is. Now, I'm not one of these people that won't wear a fragrance because I think it has poor performance. If it's a beautiful scent, then it's got a place in my collection. You just have to pick your situations to wear it. But this isn't poor performance. Projects well. The sillage is quite acceptable. But the longevity, I mean, I clock it at about 5 hours. Like, you can detect it after that if you get close to your skin, but yeah, 5 hours and I stop detecting it in my activity, whatever I'm doing. But, you know, I mean, as I say, it's still got a place in my collection. Like, it's not many things other than maybe going to work or having, you know, a busy day out, like a trip away or something like that, where you would need it to last longer than 5 hours. And even if you did, you can always take an atomizer with you and reapply. But this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's minty, citrus, lavender woods. And I know that sounds like I've just described that, but I did mint, but it's not like that. Like, the citrus is in here. Like, there's a creaminess to that, and by that I mean, like, it smells white as well as blue. Whereas this, like, the colour of the bottle says everything. You know, it's fresh, really fresh, invigoratingly fresh. Think of like a minty Sprite. That's what I would say, a minty Sprite. Like, it's fizzy. It does. It smells lively and fizzy, like effervescent, you know. And in the middle, you've got lavender, rosemary, geranium again. So that geranium, that'll lean more into the mint, and it'll probably, I don't know if it's been added there to complement like other notes, or if it is there to actually beef up the effect of that mint, because as I said, geranium can come across minty. Olibanum, which is resins, ambroxan, sandalwood, cashmerean, vetiver, cedar and patchouli. I don't get any patchouli in this at all, no matter what facet of patchouli you're talking about, whether it be earthy, green, chocolatey, because you can, believe it or not, you can get it like chocolatey sensations with creamy patchouli, depending on how it's used. I don't get any patchouli at all. Maybe some people do, but I don't. But when you get into the dry down, you know, that's where your woods, it's a bit silky, I guess. It's not harsh, dry wood. You know, it's a bit of a silky wood sort of experience, how it comes across. But for the high heat, like, this is absolute golden. I just wish it performed longer, but like, as I said, there's not many situations where you need it to perform longer than it does anyway. But yeah, this is my second favourite. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so that is number 2 out of the 4. Sedley. You know what's next if you know the 4 I'm speaking of, and many of you wouldn't have anticipated this being number 1. Oh, but I absolutely love it. I smell this and I actually start to salivate sometimes. Like, the fresh, green, juicy apple in this, it smells beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And now some people complain, like I've just been saying about Sedley, that the performance isn't here with this. I disagree. I strongly disagree. It is. Maybe not the way that you anticipate the opening and the effect that has on you, the impact, that doesn't stay around, because that's the nature of perfumery. You know, people sometimes think, oh, you know, I wish it lasted longer. You're not going to have it opening, unless it's a very linear fragrance. You're not going to have it opening, or the effect that the opening gives you that lasts. But this rears its head again and again and again, especially if you're out in the heat and you're moving around and your body temperature's up. It's the same with all these fresher fragrances, you know, like I can't remember if I said in part one or not, but you don't want to be sitting around. You want to be out and about. It relies on the heat. These fragrances rely on the heat, but this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The apple, it's a very, I mean, the name Greenley is very apt, because there's a lot of green facets about this fragrance. And, you know, you've got, I think it even mentions a green accord. I really do think it's like green notes or something like that. But it's woody, a little bit mossy. There's musks are at play here. I think musks are important for all these fresher offerings. I think it helps with the longevity of the composition of the fragrance, its performance and everything. I'm no expert, obviously, as I've said. I'm not a perfumer. I'm not even really a fragrance reviewer. Just absolutely nuts about fragrances, and I'm just trying to share it with people. But this and the rest of them, and probably every other fresh fragrance I've got in my collection, if it doesn't rely on musks, it's usually like maybe an Acqua di Parma up there. But they're a different style of freshie. They're old school gentleman barbershop, like Fougere freshies, and the performance is notably and, you know, widely regarded as a sticking point with those, most of them anyway. But yeah, I think that that's probably why musks are used a lot in these fresher compositions. But yeah, I think so. There's apple, bergamot. I think there's mandarin orange in this as well. If my memory serves me correctly, I think it mentions petitgrain, and now I've smelt petitgrain in other fragrances, and before I knew what it was I was smelling, that was something that I never used to get along with. But as my taste is you know, broadened, you know, as I've got broader taste and my nose has developed a bit, depending on how it's balanced and where it is in a composition, sometimes I can appreciate petitgrain. I don't really get it that much in here. I can't imagine that it's used in a great amount, and it's maybe even just used to complement something else. But the opening and the mid on this is the reason why it's my favourite. Like I say, I do salivate on on the opening of this. It's green, it's fruity, it's juicy, it's smooth. The woodiness is smooth. You get the leafy green in there. The aromatics are more green, whereas with this and this, you know, you've got that lavender, which leans more to, you know, the shower jelly kind of vibe, traditional masculine aromatics. The greens in here are too, but a different way to that. And yeah, Greenley is my favourite freshie from Parfums de Mali. It's not one of my favourite fragrances. It's not even in my top 5 from the brand. But that tells you everything about me, doesn't it, really? Yeah, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Kind of gutted that I sprayed Percival now. Anyway, for what it is, that was my first review. I'm really sorry about the interruption of part one, shall we call it. I won't take up any more of your time. If you've liked what you see, you know, thumbs up. YouTube, the more thumbs up we get, the more that they'll think people want to see this. The algorithm will make it available on people's feeds, and subscribe, please, if you like it. Like I say, I really want to build something like a community for just regular Joes, average Joes like us, frag lads, and hopefully we can have a little community and share our experiences and our opinions and stuff. And who knows, maybe this will go somewhere. But in the meantime, keep fresh, keep hydrated. There's been some nice weather, so it's important. And yeah, hope you're all going to be keeping safe and well in the meantime. But until next time, take care.